Good evening, ladies and gentlemen and candidates. Welcome to this forum for candidates for Ward 4 and at-large for the City Council seats in the City of Coon Rapids. I'm Lonnie McCauley of the Blaine, Anoka, Coon Rapids Area League of Women Voters, sponsors of this forum. All candidates were invited to the forum. The League of Women Voters does not support or oppose any political candidate or party for office. The League does help citizens become informed and advocates for important issues. That's what this evening is all about. It's about informing voters. If you're interested in the League, you can Google lwvabcmn.org. Men, women, and young people are invited to join. Our candidates this evening are, for Ward 4, Jeff Cosman, Jenny Geisler, and Sheila Joy Rose. They will answer several questions and make closing statements. They will alternate who will answer the question first. Answers are limited to 1 minute, unless otherwise stated, and it won't be otherwise stated, it's 1 minute. Candidates make closing statements of up to 1 minute also. Thank you, candidates, for speaking to voters on issues tonight and running for public office. It's not an easy thing to do. I know that's true. And now what I'd like to turn this, before I turn this over, I'd like to introduce Kathy Tinglestead. She's our timer tonight. And Deanne Christensen is our question monitor. Now I'll turn this over to Linda Rogers, our monitor for the evening. Linda?
Thank you, Lonnie. I'm your moderator for the evening. I'm eligible because I live in Anoka, not in Coon Rapids, and so I can't vote for any of these fine candidates. But I'm very interested in what they have to say. Just a reminder, in Coon Rapids, a primary is required when more than 2 people file for one open position, and that's the case tonight. This year, a primary is required for Ward 4. The results of the primary on August 11th will determine who's the 2 names that will go forward to the November 3rd general election. We're going to begin by just getting to know the candidates a little bit as people. And we'll begin with Sheila Joy Rose, I'm sorry. Just a disclaimer here, my eyes are really bad, so I can either see far or close, and I'm choosing close tonight. So Sheila, you'll begin with your opening statement.
Okay, I guess I won't stand, but I moved to Coon Rapids 3 years ago when I sold my house in Roseville to be closer to my son. And I fell in love with it. It's a very nice city, lots of restaurants, lots of stores, lots of housing, a lot of good things, and I've been quite impressed with the city council, especially our mayor, Jerry Koch, I believe his name is pronounced, or at least I was told it was. But I still would like to see politics changed. I don't like the system. I don't like electoral votes. I think it should be one person, one vote. I know it's a tough time, but I still would like to see them encourage other people to come in. I don't like being divided into Democrats, Republicans, Independents. Okay. And I'd like to see them maybe give away the ties, not wear suits and ties all the time, and be a little more open and down to earth, friendly towards people.
Thank you. Jenny Geisler, your opening statement.
Good evening. First, I want to say thank you to the League for hosting this forum and giving us the opportunity to talk to the citizens of Coon Rapids. I'm Jennifer Geisler, or Jenny. I'm 58, and I've lived in Coon Rapids since 1983. Married, my husband Jeff. We have one son, Chris. He's married to Jess. We have grandkids, Haley and Cameron. I'm currently the representative for Ward 4, and I started in this seat in 2014, so I'm just finishing in year 6. And it's been an honor to serve the citizens of Coon Rapids. And my focus on council has really been to make sure that as we are moving and our community is changing, that our city government is changing along with that, being more customer-focused, and a customer service mindset in how we deal with the services and how we deliver those in our community.
Thank you. Jeff Cosman, your opening statement.
Good evening. Hello. First of all, I too would like to thank the League of Women Voters for allowing us to be here tonight so we can talk to the people so that they can get to know us. My name again is Jeffrey Cosman. I've been married 23 years with Lana, my wife. We have lived in the same house in Coon Rapids for our entire marriage. We have 3 boys, Cody, Austin, and Zachary. Cody and Austin have graduated. Zachary is still in high school. Currently, I work full-time in a financial institution, and I work part-time in retail. I've been the president of the Boys Soccer Club, Booster Club. I've been vice president, Redeemer Foundation, soccer coach, Cub Scout leader, and through my church, my family and I have served for Loaves and Fishes. So as you can hear, I welcome the opportunity to serve the wonderful people of Ward 4. Thanks.
Thank you. We're going to get to know you a little bit better with the next question. What are your qualifications for serving on the City Council, and why are you seeking the office? Jenny Geisler?
So thank you. So as I previously mentioned, I am the current representative on the council and have been serving since 2014. Prior to being on the city council, I was on our Coon Rapids Planning Commission. I was on that commission for 16 years, with the last 3 being the chair of the commission. Prior to that, I was part of the Economic Development Commission within the city. And as part of those, I was part of the Coon Rapids Boulevard Task Force, where we looked at how could we start to revitalize and see the boulevard change, and we're starting to finally see some of those things come to fruition. I'm also the District 9 representative on the Met Council for the Land Use Advisory Commission. So I'm running now as we've made progress and we're working on things, and would love to still continue this work and to help make sure that Coon Rapids is right and ready to be able to transform and meet the needs of our citizens as our makeup of our citizens change.
Thank you. Jeff Cosman, what are your qualifications for serving, and why are you seeking the office?
Yep. My qualifications, I think, are twofold: leadership skills and people skills, and I believe that the two go hand in hand. Banks, I've managed banks, I've managed retail, and I've managed restaurants. And all those experiences together have developed my leadership skills. Sometimes, though, when you lead, you have to follow. An example of that would be when I decided to run for city council, I had an idea of what my candidacy would look like. But I decided to gather my 3 boys together and said, look, here's what I'm doing, what do you think? And they laid out a really wonderful plan, and if I have to admit, it was a much better plan than what I had. So as a city council member, I want to take what I've learned from my boys and what I've learned from managing other people, that we need to listen to other people because other people have good ideas also. And I feel like I can take that to city council, I can listen to my constituents, hear what they have to say, lead them in a way where they can get their voices heard and make a difference, a positive change like I've done in the past. So yeah, leadership and people skills, I believe, are my 2 most qualifications.
Thank you. Sheila Joy Rose, what are your qualifications for serving on City Council, and why are you seeking the office?
Basically, I'm a good listener, and I'm sane. I think that's important, and I realize a minute goes really fast now. So I was a deputy sheriff for Ramsey County Sheriff's Office for 30 years. I started in 1971. I worked at all the divisions, a juvenile matron at the jail, probate pickups, warrants, courts, civil process. I have 3 sons, and yes, they are smarter than me, all 3 of them. And even my granddaughter tells me, or she can get on the computer and get the Toy Story up for the younger one, and she's only 5. And I'm amazed that people can do the things they do. And I too think we should listen to people, that we have to have more input, that we need more people involved in some kind of incentive to get people to come to meetings. I know they say that there's a lot of emails, but I didn't hear any. Okay.
Jeff Cosman, what issues are you most passionate about, and how would you address them?
Sure. My passions are small business and community. Small business is the foundation of a community. So I want to bring in new businesses to support the diverse community that we have here in Coon Rapids. So I'd like to see more ethnic restaurants, shops, and grocery stores. In doing so, we build up our community to grow and prosper. So I would work with Coon Rapids to see if we can find those people who lost their businesses in Minneapolis with the riots. I would go into other communities who find businesses that we're looking for, see if they're interested in coming to Coon Rapids, prosper here in Coon Rapids as well as where they're at, and expand. So yes, small business and community are my passions.
Thank you. Sheila Joy Rose, what issues are you most passionate about, and how would you work to address them?
I think I would just start out with suggesting that because of the situation in the community that we are more sensitive to each other. And I know Coon Rapids does not mean to offend anybody, but the name does have a reaction among some people. And I think there should be a suggestion that maybe we could change it to Coke River or Rum Rapids or Lake George or something that people would not be offended by, and try to bring people together. I'd also, well, I guess that's about it. I don't like the taste of the water here. I would like to investigate that. Even though it's legal and we sell it to Blaine, I do not like the taste of the water. I think for our kids, we've got to have clean air. We've got to have clean water. It's the most important thing that we can do for our kids.
Thanks. Jenny Geisler, what issues are you most passionate about, and how would you address them?
Yeah, for me, it's about how do we keep our city vibrant? How do we keep our city growing? How do we transform to meet the needs of the community? If we don't have the people, the businesses won't come, right? It's a symbiotic relationship, and how we do that. And we have to realize that we have an aging community. 15% of our population is 70 or over. 62% of our population does not have any children. So we need to be working to attract younger families to our community. And so with that, we've got a lot of families that are older people who age in place in their homes because they're affordable. And so what we've been working to do, and I would like to see us continue to do, is to ensure that we are building up the community and the housing stock to make sure that our seniors have places to move to within our community, which allows new families to come into our community, and that we have the right resources to support those people to move here.
Thank you. On to the next question. Sheila Joy Rose, how would you collaborate to get the best outcomes on issues benefiting the public?
I think the answer has to be get more input, to reach out to the Anoka Ramsey students that go here, or the hospitals, the businesses, we just lost Honeywell today. They're going to lay off 212 people, so there'll be less jobs available for people. And I do think Coon Rapids is great, but we have to have more people coming to the meetings. When they had an open mic session, we had one person here. And I mean, it seems like we need to encourage them, either give some kind of I know they don't do suggestion box, everything is electronic nowadays, but if we could give like a little scholarship or reward, or get these students and young people to help, to get involved, maybe even to run for office. And if you can't get something done in 4 years or 6 years or whatever, get somebody new in and try to get some more input.
Jenny Geisler, how would you collaborate
Yeah.
to get the best outcomes on issues benefiting the public?
Right. Citizen involvement is key, and the challenge is getting it to be a good representation of the people within the community. So with that, it's how do you reach out? We reach out newsletter, the website, social media, the newspaper, CTN, our Summer in the City meetings, open houses, community surveys, emails, phone calls, one-on-one meetings. All of those things do happen, and we work very hard, and I work very hard to make sure that I'm having the communication with the constituents. At the same point in time, I can't, if they don't respond, that's their choice, right? And so not everyone wants to participate, so you need to encourage that participation, make sure that people are hearing you, that their voice is welcome, and that you want to hear those issues. And so to me, it's making sure that everyone knows that they're valued in the community, that their voice is going to be heard, and we'll work together to try and find solutions.
Jeff Kosman, how would you collaborate?
Yeah, so I would like to use the car show that's on Coon Rapids Boulevard on Saturday nights. When the Coon Rapids car show started, well, it's not the Coon Rapids car show, but when the car show started happening, there were concerns from some neighbors. And obviously, we got somebody got those concerns, and they were heard, as we should do. But I think what we should do, though, is we should get back to those neighbors as fast as we can, but I think we should use firsthand experiences when we get back to them. So, like, meet with the organization, find out what is it they're doing to keep the community safe and the streets clean. Go out there on Saturday nights, get involved, talk to people, shake hands, see what people are thinking. Show up on Sunday morning, help clean the streets. Let's see how much litter's out there. Is that changing on a week-to-week basis? Check out how many citations are going on a week-to-week basis. Check with the police chief, see what he thinks. I think when we bring those answers to our constituents, those are real-life answers we've learned firsthand.
Thank you. We're going to move on to some policy questions now, specific policy. And I'm just wondering, candidates, are you okay if I just ask the question once, or do you prefer it to be repeated each time?
Once is fine.
Makes no difference? No. I'm going to try just once to save time.
Okay.
And Jenny Geisler, you are the first who will respond to this question. The current solar ordinance permits only rooftop installations, not larger solar gardens in which residents can subscribe. Would you change this, and why?
So first, I'm very supportive of solar, and we've been having a number of different conversations to say, could we put solar on the roof of the Civic Center? Could we put solar on the roof of the ice arena? Because those are the places where we could look to do some sort of a community solar garden because there is enough space. Solar gardens generally, the small ones take about 2.5 acres, and right now there isn't a lot of land within the community for these kinds of things. And so would I be supportive if there is a place where it's the best and highest use of the land to put a solar garden, and that there was somebody interested in actually doing that? Absolutely. But I think our first step is really pushing our support of solar as new development comes into the community to ensure that we are being as sustainable as we can as we're bringing those new businesses in.
Thank you. Jeff Kosman.
Yeah, solar, that's a great question. I've never had a lot of experience with solar, like on my house. I've never been in a house. I've just never experienced it. Sorry, I'm stuttering. At the same time, so that being said, though, I'm not really experienced with solar, how it works. There's a lot of questions that I have. So I guess first to answer your question, I don't have a definite answer one way or the other. I guess I'd want to know, where are we going to locate the solar plants? Where is that, the solar gardens? Where is that going to be? How much space is it going to take? How effective is it really going to be for the people in our community? Is it going to cost us more money than what we're going to get out of it from a cost point of view? Are we just throwing away money? Are we going to is it going to be profitable for everybody in the community? So for me, I just have a lot of questions, a lot of answers. I mean, I'm stumbling over this because I just don't know a lot about solar, and I've never experienced it. So I'm having a hard time talking to that because of that. So I know I still need to do some more research on that, and I look forward to finding out more details on this, though.
Thank you. Shirley Joy Rose.
Okay, I would be in favor of it. I was surprised that we don't have land, because I always think of Coon Rapids in this area as a lot of vacant land, that the parking lots next to the Anoka Ramsey and the farms used to be out. There's a lot of empty spaces, and I figured solar is land and stuff. Anything that helps make the country better, I guess, and it surprises me that it's financially profitable, because Minnesota has winters and those snow and stuff that it just doesn't make sense that people would want to invest. If they want to invest in it, I wouldn't object to that being on their house or whatever, or a garden someplace. I don't see why they would object.
Thank you. City Council's chief responsibility is to set strategies for the city. What strategic initiatives would you push for, Jeff Cosman?
Yeah, so I brought this up earlier, and so I'll just bring it up again if that's okay. I would like to push for more small businesses. Specifically, I would like to bring in ethnic restaurants, shops, stores to support our growing diversity in our community. Be nice to have, for those people especially, to have kind of a little bit of taste at home close to them here in Coon Rapids. Again, maybe we can reach out to some business owners who lost their businesses in Minneapolis. Maybe we can reach out to some business owners who already have shops in other communities, see if they want to expand here in Coon Rapids. But in doing so, I think it's just a great way to build up a community for all our citizens, to bring out that diversity of different shops, restaurants, and stores.
Thank you. Sheila Joy Rose.
I'd like to see us try to implement plans like in a 5-year plan and an 8-year plan. I think right now the financial situation is so difficult for most cities. Other than if we could get more people involved, I do think hyping Coon Rapids or having even T-shirts that support Friday, the employees all wear Coon Rapids T-shirts, and that's some way of pushing or working with Anoka. We could work with Anoka and some of the VFWs and stuff. I don't see a lot of that with the city council, that they reach out to a lot of the community. I'd like to see more.
Jenny Geisler.
Yep. For me, the key strategy, we've got our comprehensive plan, and that is our, something that we put together every 10 years for what our strategy is for the city. It has, our plans for our park and recreation, for housing, for water, parks and trails, you name it. Everything is covered within those plans, and we do refresh that on a 10-year basis. And key in that is, as we are looking at who is in our community, we are becoming more diverse. We are becoming older. And with that older community, we have a greater need. Our firefighters are our EMS. Their calls are going up because of the change in our community. And so with that, my strategies and everything that I work for is to ensure that as we are doing our business with the city, that we are doing it in a way that is meeting the needs of the constituents. What are the services that we are providing to the community? We are here to serve and to ensure that what we have in our strategies is addressing the needs.
Here's a question on a very specific project. Sheila Joy Rose, do you favor over a $20 million expansion of the ice arena to include basketball courts, a walking track, and indoor playground?
Well, like I said, right now is a tough time for any city to start spending money, and I guess I would question where the $20 million is going to when we do have lots of land and there are spaces. I assume that is Coon Rapids land, and I don't know if we got bids or put it out, and maybe we could contact cities like Roseville that have the building. They have their ice arena, but they use it for other things, for flea markets, for craft shows at Christmas and farmer, all kinds of meetings. They have the walk track, which I used to use every day when I lived there. I loved it. So I would be in favor of it. I just don't know if we can afford it or if it should be postponed to a later date. Thank you.
Jenny?
So the Recreation Center is an evolving idea. And the concept is great. The amenities right now is, like you mentioned, it was basketball courts that could be used for volleyball and pickleball, indoor playground, a walking track. And right now, there hasn't been as in-depth of a needs assessment as there needs to be, and so that's something that I've been pushing for with this. There's been a lot of a want assessment, so to speak, and so we know that there's a lot of benefit to a community to have something like this, as it can be a draw for young families. Right now, we're looking at, it's not quite ready. We need to do more research. We need to make sure that it's what the community fully needs, and that can the community actually afford it. Just because you want it doesn't mean we can afford it. So stay tuned. I wouldn't see anything until 2021, at least as a start.
Jeff Cosman?
Thank you. So there's two issues, and from what I see, there's the money issue, which I'm going to sit over here. Well, that's for me for another day. What I want to talk about is the facility. I really am torn on this, and you may not get that from what I'm about to say, but I really am torn on this. I understand not everyone can afford to join a gym or a YMCA. I'm guessing that's one of the reasons why we're doing this. I don't know. I'm just guessing. I used to work at the YMCA, and it's a great organization for people of all ages. The YMCA has a walking track. It's got indoor basketball courts, and now it's got a water park also. So a couple years, and I bring this up because a couple years ago, Coon Rapids built an outdoor water park. And now we're thinking about a basketball courts and a walking path, a walking track. So I understand this may be a way to bring in revenue and a safe haven for kids to come together, but I'm starting to wonder if Coon Rapids is starting to compete with the YMCA. Is this where focus should be as a government to compete with the private sector? What about indoor skating park? What about a teen center? What about a bunch of different options? Let's come up with some other days where we can bring our kids together, where they can be safe, but we're not competing with private sector also. Thanks.
Another question regarding potential building in Coon Rapids. Jenny Geisler, do you favor more affordable or more market rate apartments in Coon Rapids?
My answer to that is yes. They are not mutually exclusive. If you look at the building within Coon Rapids from an apartment perspective, the vast majority of them had been built in the early 1990s, mid-1990s. In the last probably 5 years, you've seen River North, which is a senior apartment, Autumn Glen, which is a senior apartment, and then we have the Sherman Project by Riverdale Station, which is a market rate and affordable component, and then the Spring House apartments that are on University and 10 roughly, kind of behind the Muddy Cow. Those will also have an affordable component. When you look at the income levels within our city, and an affordable apartment is 60% of the average median income, and our city's average median income is $20,000 a year less than the metro average. We need to have housing that people can live in. This is not low income housing. It is housing for our teachers, our firefighters, our police officers, general service people, and so we do need all different kinds of housing in our community.
Jeff Cosman?
A lot of questions need to be answered before I can really take a stance on this one. First of all, how many, or where are we going to locate, where are we going to put these housing? How many units are we going to develop? We have affordable housing now, like Councilwoman Jennifer, Councilwoman Jennifer said. I'm wondering how has that affected the city, positively or negatively? I would want to hear back from my neighbors, my constituents, to see what they think. I would want to hear from those who live in affordable housing and get some feedback from them, how they like their housing and how they like the community. I would need answers from all parties involved before I could really take a strong stance one way or the other on this issue. Thanks.
Sheila Joy Rose?
I would agree with Jennifer. I think we need more housing. I think it's hard. I'm living at North Point, which I think is a market value, if I'm not mistaken. But you have problems no matter where you live, and I do think it's up to what kind of builders you could get that would come in and build in the city. Nowadays, a lot of builders are selling their apartments and don't want to be in the housing. And you have to be able to find some construction people that are willing to build. So, but I would encourage it. We've got to live somewhere. Thank you.
Now a question about changing demographics in Coon Rapids. Jeff Kosman, how would you champion a nurturing community, including diverse cultures in decision-making?
Sure. When I was 13 years old, I got my first job on a vegetable farm. They would hire kids in the neighborhood, and they would bring up some families from Texas, and the families were of Mexican descent. I saw the families every summer for 6 years. I grew to love them and appreciate their company as I worked side by side with them 6 days a week. While working with them, I learned their language, I learned their culture, and I got to try a lot of different foods. But I learned at a young age, people are people. Everyone should have the same opportunities to get an education, to get a good paying job, and owning their own home. So I personally will come behind anyone and everyone and support them best I can to help them succeed in life. But just like my friends who helped me grow and learn, whether or not they were aware of it or not, I will do the same for others now, and I will continue to do the same for others in the future.
Thank you. Sheila Joy Rose.
I'm sorry, we're in number 9?
Yes.
Okay. I guess like I said before, I'd like to rename the city. I'd like to see more involvement. I'd like to see the city council have minorities and go actively try to recruit some. It's too bad there's just one female on the whole council, and I think the more people you have that are giving you input, the better off, and the more information you'll learn.
Thank you. Jenny Geisler.
So for me, it's about inclusion and giving people the opportunity to be heard. And, we have gone from 30 years ago to a community that was almost 100% white to now 82.63% white, right? That is a big shift over 30 years. And with that, there are different needs. There are different trends. There are heritages. There are different things, different sports, different ways that they celebrate. To be able to make sure that we include that in everything that we're doing with our city, we have to be able to make sure that those voices get heard and that we're planning for our community to become more and more diverse, that we understand what everyone's needs are, not just maybe the needs of a me. For me, it's all about we, not me.
Thank you. We're going to drill down on that question a little bit with the follow-up question. Let's get personal. What skills can you bring to the council that will give a voice to a wide variety of Coon Rapids citizens? And we'll begin with Sheila Joy Rose.
My main skill would be listening and be willing to hear other people. I was the first female that worked patrol for Ramsey County. I was licensed by the state of Minnesota. And they were not thrilled to have a female out on patrol. And I think I learned I have to be able to listen to other people and to try to understand where they're coming from. I had a black partner for many years. We set records for warrant arrests. He worked at the state fair. They named that after him, Art Blakey. And I had worked alongside of a lot of different minorities. And people are people. Politicians are people. We are all people, and all of us can lose it. And stress gets to people. And if we don't have the support of our city and the people around us, we end up like we are now. And I think, okay.
Thank you. Jenny Geisler.
So I think it's the common theme. I work to listen. You know, my day job is I'm a problem solver. I'm a consultant, and what I need to do every day is to bring consensus for a vision. So I work with multiple different teams. We work to bring in all of their requirements. What are the things that they want? What are the things that we need to be able to differentiate wants and needs, and to be able to articulate a vision of where we want to go, and then to build that plan for how do we get there, but also doing it within the constraints of what is the budget, what can we afford, and what is realistic to get done. And that's what I try and do from a council perspective. And if you look at the existing council, we all come from different points of view, and we don't always, but we always have the same end goal in mind, which is what is the best thing for the city. And to that end, we work, and sometimes it's like watching sausage get made, but we all come together, and that to me is how we can build consensus. It's not a we or they, it's an us.
Jeff Kosman.
So I approach this question a little differently. I've heard Councilwoman Geisler say a couple of times, and I agree, you know, a lot of people want to be heard. And I think the best way to get heard is to go to a city council meeting. At the end of a city council meeting, they have what they call open mic. And for 2 minutes, it's a place where you can get your voice heard. As a city council member, I'd be happy to help anybody prepare themselves for 2 minutes that they present. I have tips, pointers, and recommendations that can make a big difference in presenting to the city council. I recommend it because I've used it myself. And it's okay if you're nervous. I was nervous too. But if you stutter, if you trip over yourself, no one is going to judge you. In fact, you will earn the respect of the city council because they know that you're trying to make a positive change in the community, and that's a big thing. Thanks.
Thank you. We're going to wrap up with, before your closing statements, a very interesting question to a person who lives in Anoka. Jen, do you believe parts of Coon Rapids Boulevard should be renovated?
Okay, so I've been working on Coon Rapids Boulevard for an awful long time. From my participation in the Coon Rapids Boulevard Framework Plan, where we looked at support wellness by Mercy Hospital. And if you look at that, there's a ton of development that's happened at the hospital. There's the new professional building. There's the senior housing that's in that area, so we've worked there. Centra Homes is now over in Port Riverwalk, where we're finally starting to build that up. We've had good success in a lot of places. Port Campus Square does need a lot of work. The challenge there is it's privately owned land. The city doesn't own it. The city doesn't control a majority of those businesses that could get help. And so that's where we as a city have to be working with those private owners to encourage them to want something better for their property, to encourage them to want to do things that are better for the city, since otherwise it would just be a taking, and that's not the right way, in my opinion, to go about it.
Jeff Kosman.
Thanks. Thank you. Yeah, I do believe that Coon Rapids has some room for improvement. It's one of the main veins that runs through Coon Rapids. Everybody knows that. And I like this idea because, as you've heard me talk so far this evening, I have some ideas of wanting to try to bring in some diverse small businesses. And Coon Rapids, I think, would be a great location. It's very busy. There's a lot of people that go by through that. It's very busy, and there's a lot of cars that go through Coon Rapids Boulevard on a daily basis. So yeah, it's a great place, I think, to start a new business. So I look forward to seeing the plans that the city puts before the council and the community and see what lies ahead.
Thank you. Sheila Joy Rose.
I think it's good to keep improving things and renovating them if you can do it. If it belongs to a private person, which I didn't know, how do you make them do it? I guess I realize financially I'd like to see the clean air and clean water first off. I mean, that would be my priority, to try to make the world a little bit better for our grandkids. And once you lose the water, you can't get it back, you know. I don't think we should just ignore that. We should keep up the city, of course, but I guess I don't know how much money there is, so I've got a lot to learn.
Thank you, and we're going to take closing statements now, beginning with Jeff Cosman.
Thanks again for the League of Women Voters. Appreciate you having us here. So tonight you've learned that I have an interest in small business and I support diversity. I support both because I have a passion about people and bringing community together. As part of my campaign, my family and I have rolled up our sleeves and we're doing a food drive. We are bringing the community together to collect as much food as possible to help fill the shelves for the ACBC food shelf. In our first outing, the 3rd Precinct generously donated multiple boxes and over 100 bags of food, along with a check for the food shelf. In the coming weeks, we'll be visiting other precincts to collect additional food. I'm all about trying to make a difference for other people in the community, and I will continue to put forth that kind of effort as your next City Council member. Thank you.
Sheila Joy Rose, your closing statement.
I guess I would say, again, more compromise and more people involved. I believe one person and one vote. I believe in term limits. I think if you don't get it done in your first term, move on. I encourage my kids my whole life to vote. Don't complain to me if you don't vote, even if there's not much of a choice. And with Trump and Biden, I don't know who will get elected, but I would like to see more people involved and learning more. And I'm grateful also to the League of Women Voters, to Lonnie and Lyndon D, and for the candidates for sharing so much with me and teaching me so much. I'm not a speaker and I'm not used to this, so I've got a lot to learn. And if I get some votes, I'll be proud. If not, I tried.
Thank you. And Jenny Geisler, your closing statement.
Thank you, and thank you again to the League of Women Voters. I think it's important for people to see the candidates, to hear the candidates, and as I mentioned earlier before we started, I think it's fabulous that we have people engaged and involved in wanting to run for office. One of the things that I don't like is unopposed seats. That doesn't bring us discussion. So I appreciate the discussion. I've been proud to represent Coon Rapids for the last 5.5 years and serve our community for 25 years in trying to do anything I can to help make the city better. I'm available always for questions, phone or email, as taken with the cruise that Mr. Cosman mentioned. In the last week and a half, I've had 50 contacts, and we've phone calls and emails and meetings with the leaders of the cruise and business owners to try and help find ways that we can make this a positive for the entire community. So my job is to serve you and to listen, and I would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates, for speaking to voters about issues tonight, for letting us get to know you a little bit better, and for running for public office in the great city of Coon Rapids. We'd like to thank CTN for their help in producing this video tonight. We'll take a quick break and be back with candidates for the at-large position.
Want to know the who, what, when, and where of Coon Rapids? Then just follow CTN on social media. It's that simple. Whether it's Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Keep up with local news, sports, and events, and the people who make our community such a great place to live. So give us a follow, like, share, or subscribe, and always be the first to know what's up in Coon Rapids. That's CTN, helping you stay connected.
Welcome back. I'm Linda Rogers, the League of Women Voters member and moderator for the evening. And just a reminder, I live in Anoka and won't be voting for any of these candidates, so that's why I'm eligible to be a moderator. However, I'm very interested in what they have to say. Just a reminder about what this primary is all about. In Coon Rapids, if more than 2 candidates file for an open position, a primary is required. And this year, that is the case for an at-large position on the council. The results of the primary election on August 11th will determine the 2 names that will be on the ballot in the general election on November 3rd. We're going to begin by getting to know the candidates as people a little bit. So we'll start with an opening statement, and Pat will lead off.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for allowing us to come in tonight to share our views. A little bit about myself. I'm Pat Carlson. I'm a lifelong resident. I'm married. I have 2 sons and 3 grandchildren. I met my wife in the halls of the Coon Rapids High School. Got married. Children born at Mercy Hospital and raised in Coon Rapids. I served for 31 years on the Coon Rapids Police Department. I've been an active volunteer in Coon Rapids since high school, coaching, visiting people in nursing homes, and running a food shelf fundraisers and serving Meals on Wheels. My main reason for running is to serve my community. My other reason is I want to be a voice for all residents and will work with as many people as possible to help them feel like they're a part of this community.
Thank you. Christopher Geisler.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Christopher Geisler, and I'm here running for City Council at large. First of all, again, I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum and providing the voters an opportunity to be better informed about local candidates, not only for the primary but general election. I am a lifelong resident of Coon Rapids as well. I was born here, I grew up here, I went to school here. My wife and I are raising our 2 children here. We found our forever home in the city, and I'm committed to making this city the best place to live for everyone in it, including my family. The community we call home is so very important to our everyday lives. Ensuring that this community is vibrant, prosperous, and diverse is the key to having a great community. Be it a small or large business, roads or trails, rec centers and parks, single-family developments or apartment complexes, all of these are aspects of a great and wonderful city. And I'm here to make sure that that is the best possible solution for the city and that we can provide wonderful options for everyone.
Thank you. Pablo Hernandez Jr.
Again, I'd like to thank all of you for allowing this tonight. I am Pablo Hernandez Jr., and I am not a lifelong Coon Rapids resident, but I've been here for 18 years, and I grew up in St. Paul. I'm the son of Pablo and Rosalinda Hernandez. My father was an immigrant who had come from Mexico, was able to get his citizenship and create a life for my brother and my sister and myself. I am married with my wife Brenda for 18 years. We've been together for 21, and with our 3 kids ranging from 16 to 2 years old, which is quite a gap, keeps me young. And the biggest reason I wanted to run this year is I wanted to bring a new voice, I wanted to bring a new set of eyes to the city of Coon Rapids and to help grow this community beyond our wildest dreams. Thank you.
Our second question is, what are your qualifications for serving on the City Council, and why are you seeking this office? Christopher Geisler.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm seeking this office firmly because if you believe that you want to make a change in something, you have to be willing to put forth the effort to make those changes yourself. That's why I'm here. I have the ability and capability to do that, and I want to do that. But my qualifications, I've already been representing the city and 25 other cities at the Transportation Advisory Board of the Met Council for the last 4 years. If you're unaware what TAB does, TAB guides almost $200 million in federal funding every 2 years into local roads, trails, bridges, and similar transportation funding. It's during that time that I've been able to bring things to the city like an 80% subsidy for installing EV chargers throughout the city so that we can do that at the lowest cost for taxpayers while getting sustainable options. In addition to that time, I've been able to change our scoring metrics at TAB to ensure that areas of concentrated poverty and areas that have had equity impacts have had opportunities for these federal funds to be invested. But I've also been a planning commissioner here at the city for the last 2 years. Thank you.
Pablo.
The reason why I'm seeking office is I have a passion for helping people, all ranges, all ages. I've been in youth sports for 10 years, coaching basketball, part-time with softball. I just recently stepped down as president of Coon Rapids Travel and Basketball. And my qualifications, I have a passion, I have a love, I have empathy. I listen to people, and I want to act upon what is being told to me. I would rather listen and hear what they have to say and then try to dissect what they're saying and try to come up with the best outcome. I don't have the qualifications as these two gentlemen, very impressive, but I have the ability to learn local government and the needs of the city.
Thank you. And Pat?
I know the city, and I know multiple generations of residents in the city. I've always been accessible to residents. While I was a police officer, there are many times where I would get calls at home with people who were calling because they had concerns about issues in the community. I would spend time with them to share information and try to alleviate their fears. I worked with the police department very closely to try to bridge the gap between the police department and the community. I was a DARE officer, school resource officer, community crime prevention officer. I'm a problem solver. I believe in listening to all points of view and always working towards the best result. I have experience as a leader. I'm willing to do the hard work necessary to research issues and to make tough decisions after weighing all options.
Thank you. Pablo Hernandez, what issues are you most passionate about, and how would you address them?
I think first and foremost would be our youth. I believe that in these times recently, they are on the front lines. They see the change that has happened, and a lot of positives, but yet more negatives. And I believe that setting up programs for them in regards to skill building, healthy relationships and bonding, engagement and contributions back to the city or other organizations, I think that if we can create, set aside a budget for any kind of workshops or any types of classes to, collaborate with each other and collaborate with different parts of the community, I think, they're in line to succeed, and we want to see them succeed because they are going to be the leaders in the next 20 to 30 years.
Thank you. Pat Carlson, what issues are you most passionate about?
First of all, I don't want us to lose the sight of the value of public safety. I want us to help maintain the level of public safety that Coon Rapids has grown accustomed to. People have a right to feel safe. If you or a loved one is a crime victim in a crash or have a medical emergency, it's good to know the public safety team will respond promptly and professionally. We need to support our businesses. The coronavirus has impacted many businesses and many jobs have been lost. Businesses provide us with good services and jobs. The city needs to continue to encourage new businesses and business growth. And we need to encourage our residents to patronize our local businesses.
Christopher Geisler.
Thank you. One of the items that I'm very committed to is equity through housing, employment, food, and transportation. I spend a lot of time, I have opportunities through my work and employer to partner with the Greater Twin Cities United Way, and they have that as one of their core missions of providing safe housing, steady employment, and access and reliable food. And one of the pieces that I add on top of that is to provide transportation between those three. With those three items, we get better outcomes in every community, everywhere where they're stable. And that is something that I want to see Coon Rapids continue to support and expand. Additionally, from that sustainability aspect, I think sustainability both financially and environmentally are very key aspects for the city. There are definitely options that are available to not only be sustainable in the environmental sense and financially, save some money, lower operating costs, and improve the environment.
Thank you. One more question to help us get to know you all. Pat Carlson, how would you collaborate to get the best outcomes on issues benefiting the public?
I will always listen to anyone with concerns with any issue. I'll always weigh the needs of the resident with the overall needs of the city. I will work hard to get answers by making calls to the city department or departments involved. I will always be a voice for the citizens' concerns. Most of the time, the best results are achieved with patience and compromise. I will work with residents to be a part of that process.
Christopher Geisler.
Collaboration is one of the things that I have to do in my daily job. And on top of it, also my volunteer work at TAB and Planning Commission. I actively work with the city and county staff, and we have to remember that while citizens, and discussing with citizens, the staff are the ones who are the boots on the ground to getting things done. And the council is the voice of the citizens to the staff. And I am here for open and transparent and simple conversations. I work a deeply technical job in IT security, and I deal with folks who don't know the lingo. I'm used to having conversations that are non-technical, and that's a skill that I can bring forward. But ultimately, one of the things that I've helped push forward at TAB is changing the local involvement for project selection. We have pushed counties and cities to require better conversations with communities, not just about projects they want to do, but about what projects need to happen before they create the projects, and then have a conversation with citizens of, is this what you were thinking?
Thank you. Pablo Hernandez.
I think with the time and effort that I would put into this position, I always have an open door policy, and there is not one issue that is not important to me. Every issue that has come to me has always been important, and I think trying to figure out those issues and coming up with the best solutions takes a team effort. And if that means talking to multiple residents or talking to, different departments as well, or even just having a chat with your average Joe, I think that's how we get the best outcome, is multiple I have a loss of words there, but just multiple solutions from different people and different angles.
Thank you. Now we're going to move into more policy-oriented questions. Starting with Christopher Geisler, the question is, the current solar ordinance permits only rooftop installations, not larger solar gardens in which residents can subscribe. Would you change this, and why?
Well, I'm very appreciative of this question. As a personal owner of a 36-panel, 10-kilowatt solar system on my house, I wholeheartedly support the development of solar and renewable energies within the city. But to address the code conversation, Section 11-1602 is what currently governs alternative energy within the municipal code. And mainly this question is around ground-mounted solar, which is limited to an accessory structure. Accessory structures at the end of the day have to be small and less than the main item. But within that section, we do have the ability to seek a variance. Honestly, if the struggles that I see here are having enough land, having a developer, having funding, having interconnection requirements with utility companies, those are all major hurdles that a large solar garden or project would have to tackle first. And if the only thing standing in the way of city code of getting that developed, I would absolutely make sure we could get that done.
Pablo Hernandez.
I had thought about this one. In all the years that I've lived in Coon Rapids, I've only seen probably 2 houses with solar panels. And to be completely honest with you, I really don't have an answer for you. I honestly think that there are more important issues to tackle than this. So that's my answer.
Thank you. Pat Carlson.
I support solar energy as an option, and I do generally support solar gardens. I believe private businesses should be able to provide solar energy as a service as long as the land is appropriate and efforts are taken to consider the environment and surrounding community. I think it's good to provide energy options to people who want it. I would consider a change in the ordinance after spending some time considering input from the city and its residents.
Thank you. Again, about policy. Pablo Hernandez, City Council's chief responsibility is to set strategies for the city. What strategic initiatives would you push for?
Involving everybody and anybody to put their input in. Like I said, not one person can change policies or, how we live, but if we have a group and have multiple people give us their input, I think that we can come up with the best outcomes for the city.
Thank you. Pat Carlson.
First of all, I think we need to maintain our public safety. As I said earlier, everyone deserves to feel safe in their community. I think we need to maintain and upgrade our infrastructure. We all want safe, clean water and decent roads. We need to show fiscal responsibility, or continue to show fiscal responsibility. The city needs to always treat their checkbook the same way most citizens treat theirs. We need to work with businesses to support growth and jobs. We need to reach out to all community members to share the great things that the city has to offer. And we also need to work to create new and better opportunities to attract new residents to our city.
Christopher Geisler.
From a strategic perspective, I think the biggest thing to push forward is a comprehensive plan for the 2040. Specifically, I would love to see the Port District's plan come to full fruition as soon and as viably as possible, while keeping in respect the existing businesses and citizens who already reside there. In addition to that, I would like to see us further our journey down the Green Step City program. Currently, Coon Rapids is at step 2. I would love to see us join the 50 or more cities that are already at step 3. We're already on our journey. We have really good staff who knows and understands this. I would love to support us moving that way. But one of the big ones that I want to make sure we continue to do is programs like Home for Generations, the Front Door program, local education options, local recreational options, as well as things like concerts in the park, and all of these other options that are available to as many citizens post-COVID world, assuming that we can get back to that normal. I would love to see those grow.
Thank you. Now we have a couple questions regarding potential building in Coon Rapids. Pat Carlson, do you favor over a $20 million expansion of the ice arena to include basketball courts, a walking track, and indoor playground?
I would support it, as long as it can be shown to benefit the majority of the community. I know that it also would allow us to compete with other communities as far as what they have. A $20 million investment should be decided by a referendum. So if we're moving forward in that, I would certainly like to see our residents should have a voice in that. With the current economy, we need to be cautious as we balance our desire for an expansion with the adding an extra tax burden at the same time. Many of our Coon Rapids families are hurting financially. So as we look to this, I think we need to look with caution.
Christopher Geisler.
So anything that would add $50 to $100 levy on every home in the city should be, for the next 20 years, should be adequately considered and deeply considered and have public input multiple times over multiple decisions and as it's generated. I really would want to get into the operational model of the Civic Center to understand what kind of financial burden beyond the initial capital costs that we would expect citizens to have to carry. I would hope that we can be revenue neutral or operating neutral in a building or expansion like that, but costs and maintenance and staffing are a portion of that. I will add that solar panels offset to the hockey rink could extensively lower our operating costs because it would eat every penny that those panels generate. But as a parent of a toddler and a Minnesotan, I can tell you right now that having an indoor play space in the middle of winter would be a phenomenal amenity in the city. And I'm sure there are many, many other young families in this city who would agree with me, as well as people who just want to get out and go for a walk or go play pickleball or volleyball or basketball.
Pablo Hernandez.
So this brings back to a previous question, the youth. When I grew up in St. Paul, we had a rec center, community center, probably every 2 miles within the city. Us kids did have access to sports, we had access to the gyms, we had access to extracurricular activities. I believe with this should be a community center. This should be a place for our children to go, I would be in favor for it. Like again, like the other previous gentleman had the cost on it and just what would benefit us. And I do believe the public should have a voice in this. And I think on top of that, it would possibly bring an added value to the renovation of Coon Rapids Boulevard and to bring in more local businesses. So with that being said, I would be in favor of having this expansion.
Thank you. Christopher Geisler, do you favor more affordable or more market rate apartments in Coon Rapids?
So this one, my public record is on state here from the Planning Commission. I actively fought for the workforce apartments put in on 610 and University at the Planning Commission. And I do believe that having a wide diversity of offerings from senior housing to high density, medium density, single family homes, as well as market rate and subsidized housing are important for a variety of growth within the city. I think the question becomes how much and where and what that balance is. And as our demographics shift, we need to be responsive to that. It's becoming more and more difficult to own a home nowadays, especially for younger generations. And so denser living as well as transit-oriented development like what's around Riverdale Station is a very good step to bring folks out of the urban core and into the suburban world where we can have them use our amenities, live in our communities, and hopefully stay in our communities.
Pablo Hernandez.
I do favor it. I believe in diversity. I do believe in expansion. I do believe in progression. And I believe we are the 13th largest city in Minnesota, and we are growing. And even with that brings more cultural diversity, which I'm very in favor of that. And that's all I have.
Pat Carlson.
Apartment living has become more desirable. More people want to live in apartments. And I think it's good for us to provide different options for our current residents and for prospective residents. I think whenever we decide on a new housing project, we do need to think about the possible additional needs for city services and balance that a bit. I do support market rate apartments. The only concern I have about oversaturation of affordable housing is I worry that if the housing market changes, it might negatively impact our older affordable apartment units.
Moving on to changing demographics in Coon Rapids. Pablo Hernandez, how would you champion a community that includes diverse cultures in its decision-making?
I think, again, cross-collaborating, different cultures, different races, different religions, and to get everybody out of their comfort zone and to open up to each other. And I think it's up to us as a council member and part of the city to bring that together, to get them all to get them all together and to talk, chat. What's your biggest issues? I want to learn about your religion, your culture, and I think with the involvement of everybody in the community, I think it will make us a stronger community in the end.
Pat Carlson.
Anyone who knows me well knows that I have many friends from many different cultures. My family's closest friends are from a different country, a different culture, and observe a different religion. Yet it works well. Our city is filled with people from diverse backgrounds. I believe that the key to building bridges include respect, listening, and communication. I will work hard to build bridges with all residents to foster relationships. I want all residents to feel like they have a place at the table.
Thank you. Christopher Geisler.
So I think the key answer here is to just listen. Listening has been a topic of the news a lot lately, and that's a first big start. But I have to say one of the biggest things that I love about this city is that when I grew up here going to school, pretty much everybody looked like me. Now when I go to school programs for my daughter at middle school, a band concert or something else, it's not that way for her, and I think that's a wonderful experience for her. I am so glad that she is exposed to so many more things when she's young, to learn and grow and ask questions that honestly have been pushing me to learn and grow about new and different things that I hadn't sought out before, just naturally. And those types of things are what we need to continue to engender. More community engagement, more options for communities to come in and just converse and not feel uncomfortable or lost or maybe fearful that their voice would be dismissed. And I think that's really the biggest thing, is to make sure that every council member will listen to every voice in the community equally.
We're going to drill down really on that most recent question and make it personal to you right now. Pat Carlson, what skills can you bring to the council that will give a voice to a wide variety of Coon Rapids citizens?
I've spent most of my life building relationships with people of all ages, cultures, and backgrounds. As a police officer, I worked with all citizens, many times during very difficult situations. My best skill set is the ability to listen, empathize, and help people navigate through difficult situations. As a volunteer, I've worked with a wide range of people, from working with children as a coach to visiting the elderly in nursing homes. I bring a level of respect and caring into every conversation. My level of caring and concern for all people will help me be a voice for all citizens.
Christopher Geisler.
One of my key skills is operating and discussing and working with people. I've been doing it not only professionally, but in my volunteer work. And I can tell you that I will bring a lens to this council that is a little newer, in the sense that 28% of the adults in Coon Rapids are my age or younger. And there are 15,000 children in this community. And I represent young families who are trying to make it work. I really want to emphasize that young individuals are not oftenly represented in local government, in boards, in volunteering, because it's a hard time drain. And I'm willing to make that commitment. My family and I have discussed it numerous times to make sure that my commitment is valuable to our community, and we believe that investing my time in my community and where we want to live for the rest of our children's stay here, as well as probably our lives, is a worthwhile investment.
Pablo Hernandez.
I think the biggest skill that I bring to the council is the ability to adapt. I have adapted since childhood. We grew up, we struggled, and over the years, we eventually, had a better life my parents made for us, and now I have the ability to provide for my family and give them a great life. I see from all angles and all different financial hardships, backgrounds. I can adapt and I can empathize with the citizens of Coon Rapids, and I've had plenty of conversations. I do have plenty of friends from different backgrounds, and we just have the conversations, and I just sit there, I listen to what they have to say, and that's the best. I think that's the best skill that I can bring, is just my ability to adapt to anything.
Thank you. We have one more question before closing statements, and what we're going to do is drive down Coon Rapids Boulevard and tell me, do you believe parts of Coon Rapids Boulevard should be renovated? Christopher Geisler.
As I mentioned before, I believe the Port District Plan is the way to continue to grow Coon Rapids Boulevard and really make it the main drag of the city again. I've supported projects like Port Riverwalk, where the Central Homes are going in. I've supported the apartments down in Port Evergreen. I haven't had a chance to oversee too many develops down in the healthcare port, but I do believe that that plan is really where the heart of where we need to go is. And it's a well thought out plan. It's been worked on for multiple years. Honestly, the place that I think we all know needs a little bit of investment is Port Campus Square. And that is where we haven't seen a lot of meaningful movement over time. I do hope we can continue to bring that to fruition with the local business owners and the local landowners, including things like a rec center or similar type projects on that land. And I do hope that small businesses and residential offerings in that space will continue to grow and expand.
Thank you. Pablo Hernandez.
Yes, I do believe parts. I do believe the whole drag. I mean, that is the lifeblood of Coon Rapids. And it's actually, I enjoy going down there on a Saturday evening and seeing the old cars. And as you're driving down, you see people out, and I can't just help but just think about what can we do to improve that? Can we bring in relevant businesses, local businesses to the drag? And even on top of that, the expansion of the ice arena. So there is a lot of potential for Coon Rapids Boulevard, and I firmly believe we will get there. And honestly, I can't wait for that day to happen, because it does deserve to be improved.
Thank you. Pat Carlson.
For most of our history, Coon Rapids Boulevard has been the focal point of our city. From what used to be a small downtown in what's now the Port Riverwalk area, to the move west by the Family Center Mall. Port Riverwalk will be a nice upgrade for that section of Coon Rapids Boulevard. We should look at renovations near the ice arena, especially if there's going to be a possible expansion. These efforts take time and resources, but we should always be looking forward with respect to Coon Rapids Boulevard.
And now it's time for closing statements. Pablo Hernandez, will you start us off, please?
Yes. I believe there's a reason for everything, and I think the steps that I've taken throughout my life have brought me to Coon Rapids. And this was, both my wife and I, this was the first place we looked. And actually, I think it was the second house that we looked at, and that's been our home for 18 years now. And that's going to be our home for the rest of our lives. And that's something we can pass on to our children. My kids love Coon Rapids. I've spent almost over half my life, or just about half my life in Coon Rapids. And there is not another place I would rather go. And my kids love living here. My 7-year-old actually wants to become a police officer in Coon Rapids and still stay in Coon Rapids. So that made me very happy, because as a father. So I just wanted to thank everybody again for the opportunity.
Thank you. Pat Carlson.
I have deep ties to the city. It's been an honor to serve as a police officer and a volunteer. When I retired 3 years ago, my first thought was, continue to serve the community and better serve my church. I love this city. It brings me great joy to reflect on what the city was, what it is now, and thinking about what it can be. My wife and I spend a lot of time enjoying the many beautiful parks and places in this city. Seeing other people enjoying what this city has to offer gives me hope that they feel the same way about Coon Rapids as I do. If elected, I will serve this city with great enthusiasm. My decisions will always be guided by what I believe is in the best interest of the city and its residents. And I do want to just close by thanking you for inviting us tonight to share our views.
Thank you. Christopher Geisler.
Thank you. I want to see this city continue to grow and develop in every which way we can make it. Be it amenities, roads, diversity, taxes, I'll roll up my sleeves, get into the details, work with staff, listen to constituents, and make sure we're making the best choice for the community. But I can't do that effectively without hearing from the constituents. I would love for anyone to reach out to me at votegeisler.com to talk to me about any comments from tonight. Talk to me about any other issues they have on their mind, or just come say hi. Though really getting to know each other is how a council member can effectively do their job. But ultimately, that support is how we get this done, is by coming together and working together. And I just want to wrap up by saying again, thank you to the League for hosting this event, for these thoughtful questions. Thank you to my fellow candidates for participating in this open forum so that citizens can know and understand what we all stand for and what we believe.
Many thanks to you, candidates, for speaking to voters about issues, for helping us get to know you a little tonight, and for running for public office in the great city of Coon Rapids. Viewers, this forum can be seen in Coon Rapids on channels 16 and 799. Thank you again to the folks at CTN for working so well with the League of Women Voters in producing this evening's forum. And everybody remember, the primary takes place on August 11th. Show up then and vote. And of course on November 3rd in the general election.